students, welcome back to our science class. This is teacher Ann, your science teacher. And for this lesson, we're going to talk about pollination and fertilization of plants. Pollination and fertilization of plants. It's review time! Last time we talked about the parts of a plant. Okay, we have the first is we have the sepal. Sepal. We have the petal. And then we have the anther. And this tube holding the anther is the filament. So this is the male part of a flower. So we call them as stamen. And we also have this one, stigma. Style, wherein the pollen grain pass through this tube. And we have also the ovary. Inside the ovary, we have the ovule. So these are the female part of a flower. So we call it as a pistil. And we have also the receptacle. So these are the parts of a flower. Okay, let's talk about the flowers and their different structure. Again, flowers, different structures. Okay, we have what we call the complete flower. When we say complete flower, it means it has the four parts, the four main parts of a flower. They have sepals, they have petals, they have stamen, and they have pistils. So, like this one, the rose. Okay, so rose is one example of a complete flower. So, in one plant, these four parts are complete. Number two, we have the incomplete flower. When we say incomplete flower, meaning there are one or more or even the four parts of the main parts of a flower is missing. Like for example, we have this one. Do you know this flower? Yes, it's called anthurium. So for this flower, so some of the parts or even the four parts of the flower is missing. So that's why we call it as incomplete flower. So because the flower have different name. Okay. So we have also the perfect flower. Okay. Perfect flower. When we say perfect flower, a flower with a stamen and a pistil contained in the same flower. Alright, we have example, the hibiscus. Okay, this is what we call the perfect flower, meaning almost or the four parts, the main parts of the flower, you will be able to see them in only one flower. Okay, for this flower, we have the pistil, we have stamen, we have sepal, and we have the petal. The four parts of a flower is being seen in one flower. So that is perfect flower. We have also what we call the imperfect flower. So we have perfect and we have also imperfect flower. When we say or when we talk about imperfect flower, it means that the flower has either a stamen or a pistil. Like for example, the papaya blossom. Okay, we have here this one. So again, they have so one. Okay, the stamen is found in the other flower, while the pistil is also found in the other flower. Okay, they are not in one flower. Okay, but okay, like for example, we have the papaya blossom, we have the pumpkin. So as what can you see? This is a female, a male flower. And this one also, the female flower of a papaya blossom. So this female will grow and will mature and it become a fruit. Alright? And now let's go now to pollination and fertilization of plants because this is our main topic, right? So pollination and fertilization happens only in a flowering plants. So, and flowering plants consist of two important steps. So the first one is the pollination and the second one is fertilization. Okay? In the next slides, we will be talking about these two steps one by one. Okay, we have pollination. When we say pollination, it means the pollen is released and lands to the stigma of a flower. Okay, like for example, we have here the hibiscus flower. So what do you call this part of a flower? Alright, this is the anther. So in this anther is contain the pollen grain of a flowering plant. So when it lands, the pollen grain, if it will lands on the stigma of a flower, then pollination will happen. Pollination will happen. Okay, we have self-pollination. When we say self-pollination, it happens to a single flower, same flower. So when the pollen from anther is transferred to the same stigma. Okay, so it happens when the stamen is higher with the pistil, right? So when the anther release pollen grain, so it will directly catch by the stigma or it will land here, so the self-pollination will happen. Meaning when we see self, it happens to the same flower. We have the cross-pollination. When we say cross-pollination, it happens to one flower into another flower. So, when the pollen from the anther of one plant is transferred to the stigma of a different plant or different flower. So, this is another flower and this one is another one. So, somehow later on we'll be discussing some factors that affect pollination of a flower. Now, so this time we will be talking about the factors causing pollination. First, we have the wind. Wind. So wind is a way to blow the pollen. Is when the pollen was blown away by a wind and it lands on the top of the pistil. So pollination happens through wind. Okay, like for example this plant, okay, because of the wind, okay, somehow it will transfer the pollen grains to another flower. So we have insects as a second factor. When we see insects, so they are such the bees and the butterflies. Why they come to a flower? To get their food, nectar. So for these animals, when we go to the flower to get nectar, so somehow they will able to transfer the pollen of one plant to another flower. Okay, like for example, this butterfly. So when this butterfly come to this flower and go to the second flower, the flower two, okay, it will somehow they will bring pollen to the another plant, so that cause pollination. We have also the water. Okay, it's a way to transfer pollen from one flower to another through the water. Example, when you are watering the plants or if there's a rain, so it will also cause transfer of a pollen grain from another flower. We have humans. So humans can help to pollinate plants that we want to reproduce. Okay. Like for example, this one. So it's called cross pollination. So human. It's made by humans so that this flower will become the fruit. Okay. Now let's go to the second step. So which is the fertilization. So when we say fertilization, so again, pollen grain from the anther and it will land on the stigma, so this tube, which is the style, will go down and enters the ovary, and it will cause or it will fertilize the egg. So meaning they will, the male, so it will fertilize the ovule. So that means when the ovary will swells, so swell, it will become bigger, so it will become a fruit. Okay, a fruit or a seed. So that is fertilization. So that means when a male germ cell joins with a female germ cell here in the ovary of a flowering plant, so it becomes the seeds. So when you plant the seeds, so it will grow to another plant. Okay, for recap, we have pollination. Okay, we have self-pollination, and we have also cross-pollination. And for the factors that causing pollination, we have the wind, we have the insects, we have the water, and we have the humans. And for your worksheet, I want you to prepare your ball pens with you and your notebook. So this is 10 items. So we have here a picture. So this is the factors caused pollination. So all you have to do is you have to choose the correct word in the word bank, and then you may write your answer on the space provided. So for number 1, number 2, 3, and number 4. So we have human, we have insects, we have wind, and we have water. Okay, for number 5 question is, so from the activity or from the 1, 2, and 3 and 4 question, what are the factors that cause pollination? Is it the wind, the water, insects, or humans? So your answer must be one or more. Okay. For number 6, if a plant has no pollen grain, so what will happen to the plant? So remember, if there's no pollen, so there is no pollination and there's no fertilization. So what will happen? So the plant will grow abnormally, or the plant will not reproduce. And for number 7, what is true about the reproduction of plants? Pollen, pollen released from the stamen and lands on the stigma. Pollen is released from stamen and land on the sepals. So you can check now your answer. So that's the end of the video for today, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.